All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's Alertus Power Lunch, Device Management, Keeping Your Alert Beacons and Other Hardware Up to Date. This session will focus on optimizing your alerting strategy. We'll learn how to add or remove devices, including alert beacons and Alertus desktops from the console. We'll also discuss strategies for managing groups to effectively target your alert recipients, ensuring the right message reaches the right people. We'll also explore the power of device assignment rules, showing you how to automate group assignments for maximum efficiency and precision. I am Sarah Gillum, a training specialist here at Alertus, and today I'm also joined by Brooke Petrozelli, another training specialist who will be leading the session today. And as always, this is an interactive session, so please feel free to ask any questions using the Q&A feature or the chat. I will also be putting some resources into the chat throughout the training today. And also, please be aware that the session is being recorded for training purposes. But without further introduction, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Brooke to get started.
Great, thanks so much, Sarah. So of course, gonna dive right in and start sharing my console. Let me pull that up. So I am logged in as a full administrator in the system, and we're gonna start off with alert beacons today. So if I go to my device status report, we will see that one of my alert beacons is listed as online but not configured. So this is going to show up as an inactive device, which is why it's yellow. So right now, this device will not be targeted when an alert goes out. So in order, if you do see this at any point on your end, this alert beacon does need to be updated. You can click on this not configured section here, or you can go directly to your alert devices and find that device as well. So once again, I have that. Oh, it's not even in here. I have to go from that. I forgot. Yeah, so it's not going to show up in your alert devices at all. It's just going to be on this page. So I'm going to click here and go to not configured. And now I'm going to be able to give it a name. So the one that I removed is the one right behind Sarah. It's the white alert beacon on our training wall. So I'm going to name this white alert beacon training wall. And you can see that I already have had this in the system before. I can come down here and I can add it to certain groups manually if I want to. We're going to get into groups more later around adding things, but I do know that I like to have these in all of our training groups. So I'm going to re-add those here. And then there are also these advanced settings. So when an alert beacon is removed from your system, you do need to update if you have any LED marquees attached to it or any panic buttons. So if you see behind Sarah, there is a yellow panic button and a red panic button back there. So I'm going to be putting in those again to make sure that those are running smoothly. The LED marquee is the RS-232 device, and that is attached to the yellow alert beacon on the other end. So this one does not have an LED marquee. So right now I'm just going to pull in the panic button configuration number 3 because 1 and 2 have already been taken by the white and green panic buttons connected to the yellow alert beacon, and panic configuration number 4. And then I'm going to come down and I'm going to add. So now when I go to my alert devices, I will see that I have my white alert beacon training wall is there and it is listed currently as online. And if I go back to my device status report, I will see that it is no longer yellow, it is fully configured and good to go. And I can also double check if I do have any of those panic buttons selected. I'll go back to my custom event triggers and I will see for my specific emergency panic button right here. I know that that's connected to my white alert beacon panic button and set up to do number 3, which is what I pulled in for that yellow panic button. So all of that does look accurate now. If you are ever adding an alert beacon from scratch, you can come up here and click on the Add Alert Beacon button right here. Give it a name. Usually with names, we put where it's located. So is this on the second floor of your building A? Or is this in the front lobby of the hospital wing? Wherever it is, give it a name so you know exactly where to find it. And then the ID is going to be a 4-digit ID that is on the back of the alert beacon. So that is going to come with your, obviously with your alert beacon, you can flip it over and then near the serial code, serial number, you will be able to find this ID number and pull that in as well. If you are replacing your alert beacons, so say for example, this alert beacon for some reason needs to be returned and then replaced with an updated version, but you want to keep all of the configurations. So you have the panic buttons that you have configured there, you have the maybe a text-to-speech module plugged in, or an LED marquee, or any other strobes or sirens. You want to just update the device ID. You can come into this and there's going to be a button that says replace device. So it's going to keep all of the groups, it's going to keep all of the advanced settings correct. And all you're going to do is press replace device and add in that new ID number that came in on the back of that alert beacon. There is also a way to update and replace devices in bulk. So if you're getting a whole new shipment of alert beacons in the system to replace, you can use this and then update a specific CSV file to keep all of those settings as well. So lots of different ways to update your hardware, make sure that things are looking good with your alert beacons. There are specific ways to upgrade the firmware as well. And Sarah is going to add a knowledge base article specifically around updating the main firmware on an alert beacon. If you have an old alert beacon, it will be a manual process, but if you have updated to the new Rev T, then it will be able to be pushed out to the system. So those are the two updates or two differences that you will see in this knowledge base article, but different ways to keep your firmware up to date. And if, of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to the tech support team. The next thing we're going to hop down to is desktop. So you can see here that we have two desktops in this system. Desktops are automatically going to show up in the system. So you will not see an add desktop button up here. If the device itself has the software, Alertus desktop software downloaded and has been configured to target your Alertus host name up here, then it's going to show up in your system. So if a device gets deleted, but then the computer turns back on, it will pop back up here as well. If it needs to be updated, you will, of course, be able to do that in the system as well. And then there is a spot in desktop global settings where you can set the different polling intervals of how often these devices are checking in, as well as one of our favorite spots to show customers, because it's really, really handy, is the device cleanup settings. So this is going to delete any devices that have been inactive, desktop devices that have been inactive in your system for X amount of days. So right now we have ours set to 30 days, but if you wanted to extend that, you can set this to whatever you want. And this is saying every day at 3 a.m., if a device hasn't checked in for 180 days, it will be removed from the system. So this is a way to keep your data up to date when you are sending out alerts. You don't want to be targeting a whole bunch of offline inactive desktops, because then it's going to say that you actually only hit 40% of your desktops, which doesn't look great for an emergency test. You want to see a real number, how many you're actually hitting. So a great spot to keep your global settings and desktops up to date. In addition, we also have this auto update feature available currently only for Alertus Desktop for Windows, but you are able to update and push out different updates for your desktops directly in this system here with specific start times, end times, and these local files. Of course, the files and the updates for the Alertus desktop are going to be in the customer portal. So if you go to help.alertus.com and log in, we are going to see that there are some software downloads in that one of those top tiles there. And that's where you can pull in the new software that you want to download for the Alertus desktop. Or the Alertus server, or whatever specific downloads you have, so you can pull those in as well. Then hopping back down to desktop, Also with Alertus Desktop 7, specifically with targeting with this, you are going to be able to update the policies. So the policies are really handy with Alertus Desktop 7 instead of having to update all the config files on those individual hardware pieces. You'll be able to come here and edit the specific settings. So for all my default devices, maybe I'm not going to have them have panic buttons. And on the system tray, I don't want them to be able to exit. So I'm going to set that as it will always show in the system tray. They can't exit out. They can see a few other things, but I can set some settings for lock and log on screen or specific advanced settings. If I want it to be able to show on both monitors, if I have a laptop plugged into another device, then that is a great thing to do here. Make sure that all of these settings are up to date. And then for different policies, you can, of course, include those panic buttons that we've mentioned and covered in a few other trainings. There are a whole host of different knowledge base articles around updating your Alertus desktop software. I just recommend going to help.alertus.com, looking up Alertus Desktop 7, and then you will be able to have and target the ones you want. So here's the user guide, here's the configuration guide, here's the migration guide if you already have panic buttons in Desktop Activator, but you want to move it over to Alertus Desktop 7. Here's a user guide for installation and deployment. Lots of different things here. So please utilize this area. All right, the next device that we are going to take a look at is a text-to-speech speaker. So I'm going to scroll down to my text-to-speech section. They're like desktops, these are going to automatically show up in your system. They will come pre-configured to you once you order them. And once they are connected to power and a network cable or PoE, then you will see them show up in the system. You can set some specific global settings here. So if you want to have this download updates one turned on, it is recommended to have that enabled. However, if you don't have external server access, the settings should be turned off, but it is really helpful to have this on because there are different profiles you can use for your text-to-speech devices to automatically push out the most updated firmware versions. So if you have this toggled on in settings, you will see that there are certain text-to-speech profiles. The one that you're going to have come default is going to be default in the system, is going to be the default profile for all devices. And you'll notice that the channel, this update channel, is going to be disabled. So that means that there is no open channel for your devices to receive those updates, which is most of the time what you are going to want your devices to be in. You don't want those to be open to receive certain types of updates just kind of whenever. You want to be able to control that. So you can add a new profile. I already have, but I can add one here. And then I have different update channels. So disabled is going to be for specifically like we don't want any updates coming through. Production is going to be how the devices will install the latest stable firmware updates available on the production channel. So this is going to be the one that you will utilize when you want to send out those updates. There are two other channels as well, development and test. These you will only utilize if directed by Alertus, because you're going to receive the latest development updates, but they're not going to be in full production yet. So you're going to want to stick with disabled or production. So I have created a new profile called firmware update for my production channel. And then I can scroll down to my text-to-speech devices. You can see that we only have one behind Sarah's head there. And you will see that it's currently set to the default profile, which once again has my channel disabled. But if I know that I am going to be updating this, I want to have these updated. There was an announcement that there's a new firmware. I'm going to come here to edit, and I'm going to change my text-to-speech profile to firmware update and then save. And then we will see that now this specific text-to-speech speaker is ready to receive that firmware update. So that is a way for you to have that pushed out to you and then update your text-to-speech speakers. There is another help article that Sarah is going to put in the system, into the chat right now. And I'm going to move this back to our default profile, so that channel does not stay open. All right, great. So those are all of the pieces of like the devices that we're going to be talking about today around updating. But something that's important with your devices, if you are updating or removing or changing anything, is you want to make sure that your groups are also being updated, because that's how you decide which recipients are getting the alerts. So with groups, you can come here and you can say, you can see who's in which building. So I have this Brook 1 building group. You can see which devices are in there, and I can add some. Maybe I want to move this one over because that is in building 1 auditorium, but this specific alert beacon is not. I'll move that out. I can edit whatever I want here, set this up. And you can also see that some of my devices are automatically added by group. So with the devices in this group, this one is automatically utilizing a device assignment rule. So if a device is removed from the system or is added to the system that's new, but a device assignment rule is set, it will also automatically be added to those groups. So it's really handy that you are going to want to create those different device assignment rules in order to target those groups. So I am, for the webinar, I'm going to add a new group, and I'm just going to title it Building 3. And like I said, I can come in here and I can select which devices I want to target on my system today. I'll do these specific ones, and then I will add them. And so now I have this Building 3 group that I can now utilize as well. And then also, we can set up specific device assignment rules now to target this group. So I'm going to go up to device assignment rules, and I'm going to add a new device assignment rule, and I'm going to call this one Building 3 again. And I want to add it to a group. I'm going to add it to Building 3. And there are 4 different ways that you can create these rules. The first one is with naming conventions. So maybe all of my devices begin with B3 for Building 3. Or I can use BSS IDs, check-in variables, or IP addresses. Today I'm going to use IP addresses. This is the only way to do dynamic groupings. So if a laptop is working in Building 1 one day, they're going to be in that group. But then when the next day, when they move to Building 3, they will then be in that group if you are using these IP ranges. So I'm going to say that my IP range begins with 172.22, and then ends in 172.23. Of course, you can expand this as much as you want to include any subnets or ranges there, and then you can add any other IP ranges as well. But I'm going to add this. Of course, these are not standard. Let's see, 10. Come on. Let me put this in. Okay, these are real IP addresses. I'm not sure why this is doing this. But if we have this created, then that would pull in the IP ranges that you can utilize there. So another way to update your groups is also a device batch updater. So maybe you don't have automatic ways that you can group the system, but you don't want to go through and pull in each device individually. You can come here and select the ones you want. And then I can come over here to select groups, and I can pull in Building 3 this way. So this is not an automatic way to add to the devices to the groups, but this is a way to do it quite quickly manually. So a bunch of different ways to make sure your groups are updated once you are updating the different software as well. And then now I have the specific devices in the group. I have the group that I have updated. And then of course, we'll want to make sure our presets are updated as well. So I have a Building 1 group, but now I want to target my Building 3 for a specific fire. So I'm going to clone this alert. I'm going to say fire in Building 3, and then I'm going to update my language to fire in Building 3. And then all I need to do is make sure I'm pulling in whichever devices I want to target. make sure for my alert aware group, I would be pulling in my building 3 one. And then I also want to target my text to speech speakers as well with the default settings. And then I just need to pull in the correct group. Building 3. So I'm going to add this as a new preset alert, and we will see if I go to send out that preset activation here. I am going to look up building 3. I can see the languages there, and I can also see that I am going to be targeting these specific devices to send them out. So I've updated that alert beacon behind Sarah. I have updated all of the devices that I can with my specific firmware settings. And so now this device confirmation is ready to go, or this alert confirmation is ready to go. So I'm going to send this out. Sarah, I believe it should be silent behind you. I'm so sorry if I did not update those settings. But it has now come into my alert beacon, I'm sorry, to my specific desktop.
Immediately.
And I am going to cancel that early. I'm actually not sure which alert beacons I pulled into that behind you, Sarah. So let me check on that group again. This is why we test. So if I go now to my building 3 group, aha, okay, yeah, so I have pulled those in and the text to speech speaker behind you. So let me save. And I'll hop to my reports. I didn't let that alert live for too long, so maybe that's why it didn't target it. But it just says activating. Oh, I turned it on. They were completely on silent without a blink. That is why, because if I go back to my alert history report, I can click on this and I can see my alert profile and my alert beacon settings were set to silent and no visual alert. So that is why we did not see anything go off behind Sarah. Something we're learning live here, making sure that you update these settings to make sure that the specific behavior you want is doing what you want it to do. So I would just go down to that preset alert now, and I will edit. And for my alert beacon, I'm going to have it be silent, but I am going to have it glow and activate the LED marquee behind it. So now, when I go to send out that activation, we will see it hopefully everywhere. Building 3, continue. I'm targeting those devices. My settings are silent with a glow, and it will activate my LED marquee. And let me send that again. So I once again have that active alert, and there we see them going off behind Sarah. Perfect. Thank you. And thank you for being a great model while I ask people to look behind your head. Great. And so we'll see it pop up on the desktop any second now as well. We have that active alert down here. Here it comes. I'll acknowledge it, of course, and then cancel that alert early, and we'll see everything go off. But yes, lots of ways to keep your system up to date. And to the reports, as you can see, are very handy to check and see why something didn't do what you wanted it to do. So make sure that you are testing your system, make sure that you're keeping those devices up to date. And of course, if you do need any help, please feel free to reach out to the training team and the tech support team. We are going to add one more KB article, knowledge base article in the chat around device assignment rules. And I'm going to throw it over to Sarah to see if there are any questions and talk about next week's Power Lunch.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you, Brooke. And I'm not seeing any questions in the chat or in the Q&A box yet, but we'll definitely hang around for a few more moments. So please feel free to put in any questions that you do have. And then I'm also going to pull up the registration link for our Power Lunch next week, which is going to be all about how to brand your alerts with HTML template skins for your desktops. So that will kind of go through all of the desktop settings that you can use to manage what they look like and what they sound like when the desktops are activated. So let me put that in the chat. I'm trying to type and speak at the same time.
Sarah, I did put the link in the agenda.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. I wasn't sure if that was updated, but awesome. So I will share that there. So you all have that. Hopefully we will see you next week as well. Hope you all have a great weekend, and thank you all for joining today.
Yeah. And happy Halloween to those who celebrate. I have on my skeleton shirt.